Hello everyone, today I will be discussing some stuff with you regarding Doey and his feats, and how Doey might not be as strong as you initially thought. First of all is the claim stating that Doey fought the prototype. Not only is it false, there is no evidence, lore, or narrative evidence that suggests that a fight between Doey and the prototype ever took place. There is no accounts of such fights either. In fact, narratively, it's confirmed multiple times in Chapter 4 that Doey is inferior to the prototype. The first is Poppy herself. Someone who knows both sides well, asks Doey to buy time against the prototype. Why do you think Poppy's ultimate plan was to blow up the factory to beat the prototype and not use Doey if he was truly capable of beating him? That's because it isn't true. Also, why do you think Doey hasn't defeated the prototype for all this time when him and Dr. Sawyer have been torturing Safe Haven? It doesn't make sense. The second time is when Doey himself admits he never fought the prototype. Doey says,
I led him away, didn't I?
Notice how he said, led him away, which shows that he was getting chased by the prototype and not the other way around, which indicates inferiority. It's not even a fight. It's a run for his life for Doey. The reason why Doey was chosen as a tool for distraction is due to his incredible travel speed. As semi-solid, he can move through tiny cracks, so even though prototype is faster, Doey has a greater mobility advantage. There is still the risk of getting caught and one-shotted by the prototype, which is exactly why Doey shows frustration when Poppy brought him down, and also hesitation when Poppy asks to buy time. Bro knows he doesn't stand a chance. Another narrative evidence is that Poppy playtime confirms that all toys, including Doey, is scared of the prototype, which again could show he is below prototype, considering the other factors. Yet another evidence to show Doey as inferior to the previous three antagonists is when we have that private conversation with Doey, where Doey says this.
I heard what you did above. What you survived. If it's all true, then we need your help.
Notice that? Doey says that he knows what we did above. What did we do? Defeat Huggy, kill Mommy Longlegs, and Catnap. And then Doey says that if that's true, he needs our help. He uses the word need, suggesting desperation, and also shows that Catnap, Huggy, and Mommy is superior to Doey, because Doey is essentially stating that our capabilities to kill or defeat the prototype by facing Huggy, Catnap, and Mommy is greater than his, and Safe Haven's abilities to defeat prototype, so this should put them above Doey or give them relativity to Doey at the least. Or else Doey wouldn't say that he needs our help if he alone could defeat the prototype. We'll look more into the feat side of it later in the video. I'm gonna go more closely into his strength, durability, speed, and IQ categories next. Starting off with his strength, Doey's best feat was holding up this hydraulic press for a few seconds, and yeah, it's quite impressive, but it's not as impressive as people think. Notice how Doey isn't directly overpowering the press, he's holding it in place. This can be explained due to Doey's large surface area coverage and 4 arms to distribute the force from the press much more equally, allowing him to hold it for longer so he doesn't use pure raw power. He does overpower it for a second, but fails instantly and is crushed. So with his 4 arms, he has good lifting power, but it's not all that impressive. His attack potency is also terrible because in Safe Haven, with full body force, Doey couldn't harm weakened concrete. He just pushed it away. He also failed to bend the nitrogen canisters in this scene with a full body slam in his monster form. So his attack potency is below wall level, and I'll tell more evidence later. And it ain't doing serious harm to any major villain, especially Prototype or Mommy, who is made of rubber, which is a shock absorbent. Let's talk about his pulling strength. Doey literally fails to pull back the player with 2 freaking arms, bro. Like, what are you doing? Huggy casually overpowers humans and Grab Pack. Catnap probably tore apart Dog Day. And Mommy states she can tear us apart, and also overpowered the Grab Pack, which can bend steel bars. So Doey's pulling strength sucks. I'll talk about why any other arguments for Doey is inconsistent. But first one is that in this part of the game, the prison, Doey doesn't use his raw power to break the door or weakened concrete to get us past the door, but says to find another way. Surely if he has at least wall plus level attack potency, he would just break that weakened wall or the door like Huggy did. No, he doesn't. Probably cause he can't, which is consistent with the fact that he can't harm weakened concrete in this scene. So, I'd say the prototype is stronger than Doey, as the prototype himself opened up Lily's dollhouse held by giant magnets. And also Huggy, who while injured can bust through walls and bend metal doors. Catnap, who can also destroy statues, and Mommy, who has relativity to Huggy by Project Playtime, and also pulling down boulders weighing tons with one hand. Now I want to cover Doey's durability. There are both flaws and strengths to his durability. His strength is his materialistic durability. He's made of dough, a semi-solid substance that any blunt force can't harm that much. That's the reason why his temperature durability is so low, as he is hurt by flares and liquid nitrogen. So Doey by that has super good blunt durability. Where he lacks is, as we discussed, temperature durability and also corporal durability. This is actually a huge disadvantage. Why and how? Doey is made of dough, semi-solid. In his advert, literal kids can tear apart dough, which means his physical structure can easily be altered using the smallest of forces. And it's key to maintain a stable physical structure in a battle for effective combat, but Doey can't do that. That's why he has to fix himself up when he is altered. That means characters like Catnap, Huggy, Mommy, Lily, Prototype, etc. can tear Doey's structure against his will even if he is holding himself together, giving them an edge against him in combat. For example, Mommy could tear Doey apart and with her range, throw away chunks of his body away to long distances or web up those chunks to the point they can't return to Doey, and Mommy can do this with literally no effort as well, considering her pulling strength. Huggy and Catnap has more corporal durability than Doey. Prototype excels him in corporal and temperature durability, and by feats as well. Mommy Longlegs likely surpasses him in blunt durability due to her rubber nature, which is a better shock absorbent. Mommy also has more temperature durability, probably one of the best in game, cause she can just walk into furnaces, and this flame has game mechanics as it one-shots player and cooks a cog. Now I want to cover his speed, probably his most fairly rated attribute. He has one of the best travel speeds in the game and also decent combat speed due to him catching Pianosaurus. He is not faster than Huggy, Catnap, or Prototype, but probably faster than Mommy, but she excels him in combat and reaction speed by a lot, as she has subsonic attack speed via reacting to mini Huggies and Red Hand. What about his intelligence? Not too overrated, but he is capable of speech and all that. But he is below people like the Prototype, Harley, and Mommy by a lot, and also below Catnap, and likely Huggy as well. First of all, Doey lacks much IQ feats as a whole. All his cognitive feats are mostly either knowledge like his engineering intuition, or skill-based. Yes, those indicate he has good IQ, but he hasn't shown deeper thinking abilities. In fact, he was manipulated by Poppy, who was shown to suppress his opinions despite him being a superior being to her, especially Kevin, who can be classified as brainless. Matthew is the smartest of the three. Catnap can make deals with Miss Delight for his long-term benefit and has his ideals and is quite calculated. Huggy has sufficient intelligence, so he is average, and he has other feats like getting out of the factory and bypassing the security system, which could take planning as he was shown to do in Chapter 1. For Prototype, Harley and Mommy Longlegs, it's a bit obvious, but if you want clarity, you can ask me in the comments. He is smarter than Yarnaby or Lily Lovebraids, but not above the others we mentioned. Now let's go over his other capabilities. His abilities include physical manipulation, projectiles, leaping, and regeneration. Most of his other capabilities, like more arms creating and manipulating his size, comes off the physical manipulation ability, having 4 key abilities in total. However, these actually lack quality. For example, physical manipulation is useless for offense or defense because even if Doey turns into a sword or a hammer, it's still dough, not metal, and his AP will remain the same. For defense, if he turns into a shield, it's still his body turning into a shield. So this ability is useless for offense and defense. Its useful aspects are at allowing him to stretch and molding to adjust his physical shape. Doey's regeneration gets weaker the more he uses it, as how he died here and liquefied here. His projectiles are also kinda weak as it can't one-shot the player and disintegrates after a few seconds. Sure, he has better abilities and hacks than Huggy or Lily. He has more abilities quantity than Catnap, but Catnap's red gas is one of the top hacks in game. Mommy surpassed Doey in both the quantity of abilities and quality, due to her stretching, physical distortion abilities, web manifestation, wall climbing, X-ray vision, and resistance to kinetic-based attacks due to being made of rubber. Especially Mommy's webs, which in-game jammed large industrial machinery with ease, and some individual strands blocked a doorway for the player and overpowered the grab pack, which can dismember humans and bend steel bars. So this hack already surpasses Doey's AP and pulling strength and is one of the best in hacks in the game. The same with Prototype, who has the best hacks in game with the Poppy Gel, providing a better regeneration factor than Doey, and also the Poppy Gas. So in terms of abilities and hacks, Doey is definitely below Prototype and Mommy. In terms of quantity, he's above Catnap, but below him in terms of quality and above Huggy, who lacks any abilities. Now I want to discuss some feats he allegedly have done after his crash out at Safe Haven. The first ones are that he destroyed boulders in his chase sequence and shook the area around him. Literally not true at all. Firstly, look at this rockfall. It's much further away from where we and Doey is. There is no evidence that Doey caused it to collapse. If he did, the area around us would have shaken too. The kinetic energy from Doey doesn't just randomly reach that boulder without affecting the area it has to go through. And by the scene, there is no evidence it did. Another one is this boulder collapse. The same logic applies here as well. An actual logical reason why this happened is due to the Safe Haven explosion. The explosion sent shockwaves around the area and even reached us. This would have destabilized the area surrounding Safe Haven. That means any feats Doey has in this area is invalid and inconsistent to any other feats he does. The prime example is this. Notice how this large chunk of the ground fell under the player's weight, and due to the force we used to squeeze past these obstacles, that goes to show how weakened the area was around us, to the point the player was able to cause collateral damage. And yet still Doey, a 900-pound dough monster jumping from decent heights, couldn't cause as much collateral damage. You'd think he would due to his weight, and the distance he jumped from would build a lot of kinetic energy, more so than the player, but it doesn't. This means that Doey has very low kinetic energy output. Definitely lower than Prototype or Mommy Longlegs, as the Prototype can open Lily's dollhouse and upscales from Majority Toys, and Mommy Longlegs, who managed to shake a large area of the factory before the tunnel chase, which caused some huge and vast structural damage over a large area. His power might also be lower than Catnap, who has more consistent feats, and overpowering Dooughey, who should be relative to Catnap in physicals. And also Huggy Wuggy, who can bust through walls. I also want to go over how people think he defeated Pianosaurus so easily. Firstly, he off-guarded Pianosaurus. Already not a fair fight. Another reason is that Doey is using his best asset, lifting strength and using Piano's own mass to slam him against the walls. This isn't direct attack potency for those reasons. Also, Piano is held by screws and bolts, and this blunt force would have weakened most of them for Doey to rip him apart. This won't work on a smarter, faster, heavier, and more deadly Prototype, and can't overpower him anyways. This won't work on Mommy, who has superior reflexes and agility. She also isn't made of steel, She's elastic plastic, which is an evident shock absorber, so these blunt forces will do little to her. That's if Doey catches and overpowers her, which he can't. It won't work on a more stealthier and faster Catnap or Huggy, who is more experienced and has better combat capabilities with good weaponry. One thing Doey has a lot of is his endurance, as throughout the chapter, he goes through a lot of physical damage, but is carried by his regeneration factor, which does get weaker over time, and also his semi-solid biology, which gives him a mobility advantage and good blunt durability. The main reasons why Doey is so much weaker than people think is that fact that some of his feats are indirect, like how this boulder collapsed. No evidence he made it collapse, and even if he did, its quality is reduced by that safe haven explosion has weakened the whole area. Another reason is that people being delusional, thinking he actually faced the prototype, and also that characters like Mommy and Catnap does most of their feats and abilities off-screen, or it's completely unnoticed, while Doey does most of his on-screen, also due to people's favoritism. Overall, to conclude, I'd place Doey definitely below the prototype and Harley Sawyer, below Mommy Longlegs, Catnap, and even Healthy Huggy with VHS feats. Doey is above Lily Lovebraids or Yarnaby in my opinion, however. Hope you enjoyed and learned something from it, and don't glaze Doey ever again.